Hi guys, what is going on? My name is Amy Adams. I'm a registered dietitian and a bikini bodybuilder. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining me. Before we get into our video today, make sure to like, subscribe, all the things. I'll be forever grateful. So today, with the start of the new year, I know a lot of people are trying to lose weight, and calorie counting and tracking isn't always sustainable for most people. So I want to give you guys some insight into 3 things that I would do today if I want to lose weight. And most of them are really, really simple and things that you can implement directly after this video. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that I would do if I wanted to lose weight without calorie counting would be to stop grazing all day and start sticking to regularly scheduled meals. So when we don't have regularly scheduled meals or meals that we tend to eat around the certain time every day, our body can actually increase a hormone called ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. Skipping meals also tends to make people eat more later in the day. So if you're skipping meals or you don't have a plan, you're probably going to get to a point where you're so hungry and you're relying on that hunger to tell you when to eat. We never really want to get to that point. We want to eat when we first start feeling a little bit not so satiated and like we might be starting to get hungry. We never want to be in that super red zone where we're ravenous and we need to eat right now. Time and time again, as a practicing dietitian, I see this where it's usually people who have pretty demanding jobs. Truck drivers are notoriously the demographic that I see this the most in, especially when I was working in a clinical setting. So they usually don't have a set plan for the day, and they don't eat a ton during the window in the day where we're up, where we're moving, where we're working. And then it tends to get to later at night where they just kind of say F it and they eat whatever they want. They might order out, they might be eating cookies, maybe ice cream that's been sitting in their freezer for a while. So this is why it's really important to have a schedule for the day, make a plan even. You don't necessarily have to meal prep. I know that can be very daunting for a lot of people and a lot of people don't have the time, but just have a certain plan in your head. What are you going to eat? Where are you going to get it from? How often are you going to eat? I typically recommend about every 3 to 5 hours is when you want to eat and get your body on a good schedule for. A lot of people also think that just skipping meals in general is the way to go when it comes to weight loss. And again, what ends up happening is you skip meals earlier in the day and you kind of backload those calories later in the day. So you may have in your head, okay, I want to eat 1,800 calories for the whole day. Well, you don't eat nearly anything all day, but you end up overeating at night and might consume up to 2,500 calories. This also happens a lot on the weekends where people don't have schedules, so you want to stick to those schedules even during the weekends, even when you have parties or when you're traveling as well. So the first key to weight loss without counting calories is just to stick to a scheduled meal plan and have a plan in general. The second thing that I would do if I was trying to lose weight without calorie counting would be to follow a specific meal plan for all of my meals and most of my snacks. So this specific blueprint requires eating protein, fiber, and healthy fat at each meal and snack. And I'll tell you the reason why I want all of those 3 components on your plate. So protein, it has the highest thermic effect of food out of protein, carbohydrates, and fat, meaning that your body burns more calories from protein when it digests it versus carbohydrates and fat. The other thing is that if you're in a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose weight, you also don't want to lose muscle along with that. So that's why it's really important to have a high protein intake while you're trying to lose weight, while you're in a calorie deficit. My recommendations are to consume at least 10 to 30, if not 35% of your daily calories coming from protein. And I really like a high protein diet for people who are trying to lose weight. So honestly, I like about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of protein when you're trying to lose weight. And I can show you what that looks like. So obviously, protein foods, most people know it's our animal foods. You mainly want to stick to lean proteins. So this is our chicken, turkey, fish. Although salmon is not necessarily a lean meat because it is a little bit higher in our healthy fats, I do recommend things like salmon, mackerel, tuna, sardines because they are high in omega-3s and they help with the anti-inflammatory process. Eggs and egg whites are also a good source of protein, as well as some plant-based proteins like beans, seitan, tofu, any kind of soy product. But I would stay away from your packaged soy products, so things like the veggie burgers and things that are more processed are not necessarily the best sources of protein for you because they have a lot of other junk in there. Next, I want to talk about fiber and why it's important to make some of your plate fiber. So fiber comes from mainly our fruits, our vegetables, our whole grains. So whole grain bread, brown rice, quinoa, oats, bulgur, farro. Those are all good sources of whole grains. So the reason why fiber is so important, especially for losing weight, fiber in general, it's a type of carbohydrate that is not broken down by our body. And this is important. It helps to regulate our digestive system. It helps with toxin regulation as well. And it can slow down things in our gut and keep us feeling fuller longer. The sad thing is most Americans fall short of daily fiber recommendations. So for recommendations, there's a discrepancy between fiber amounts for women and men, but I really like to tell everyone to aim for between 25 to 40 grams of fiber each day, and I can show you kind of what that looks like. There's even studies that show beyond 40 grams of fiber is even more beneficial. So adding some kind of fibrous source of food with your meals and snacks is very, very beneficial for losing weight without counting calories. Healthy fats. Healthy fats work with our body. They help with our hunger hormone signaling. They also help us to keep satiated. So healthy fats, unlike our saturated fats, which we want to keep to a minimum, at least less than 10% of our daily intake of calories. So saturated fats are anything that are solid at a room temperature. So when we're thinking like butter, ghee, those kinds of fats are saturated fats. Unsaturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, these are our olive oils. We can get from fatty fish, olives in general. Also, things like nuts and seeds are a really good source of healthy fats, and avocados as well. So fats are a concentrated source of calories. They are 9 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates and protein are 4 calories per gram. Our body also has a very complex way of breaking down fats that's not so complex with breaking down proteins and carbohydrates. So fats kind of take a longer time to digest and process for energy in our body. And because of that, we can feel satiated, we can feel fuller for a longer amount of time with a good amount of fat in our meals and our snacks. But again, we want to stick to healthy fats. So my second tip for losing weight without counting calories is just to follow that blueprint of having protein, fiber, and healthy fats with every meal and snack. And just to give you guys some real world examples of how this could look day to day, it might look like breakfast is Greek yogurt, berries and chia seeds. Or if you're a little bit more simple, it could look like a whole grain piece of toast with peanut butter and an egg on the side. And then maybe some kind of berries in there as well. And then lunch, we could have something like chicken breast, quinoa, olive oil, and then some kind of veggie. And then dinner would look like salmon, maybe some rice, brown rice, or quinoa, farro, bulgur, any of those options. Avocado, or you can use some olive oil to cook with, or maybe even a little bit of nuts on the side. So always mapping out that protein, healthy fat, and fiber. You don't have to be perfect every day, but you do have to be consistent. The third and final thing I would do if I was trying to lose weight without counting calories would be to tap into mindfulness. So mindfulness, when you think about it, can seem a little woo-woo, but I'm going to break down what that actually means when we're talking about losing weight and being healthy. So a lot of people kind of just go through their day-to-day eating, grazing, not really understanding the science behind or the emotions involved in what they're actually doing. And what I mean by this is that you might wake up, not have a plan for the day, go back to my first point of why it's important to have a plan, and you're grazing, you're eating kind of whatever you want, and then maybe later in the day you overeat, you might eat something that you know you really shouldn't have, something that's been sitting in your fridge that you've been eyeing for a while, that you've been telling yourself that you really shouldn't eat. And then the next day you kind of wake up feeling guilty, you step on the scale, you haven't lost any weight. So we really need to understand why you choose certain patterns when you eat. Is it that you're eating because something really stressful happened during your work day or some stressful event happened with your family and you turn to food for comfort? So now we have to figure out how can we manage that stress so that it doesn't interfere with our eating, or what are some other things that we can look into that when stress pops up, we can turn to that instead of eating a ton of calories. Could it be that you got a very poor night of sleep the night before and now your hunger hormones are all over the place and your blood sugar's all over the place and you're just reaching for anything you can possibly get your hands on? Could it be that you are like so many people that try to start off the next day with all good intentions and restrict themselves so much, or maybe even skip meals, that it gets to a point at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and you are ravenous. Your blood sugar is all over the place and you're going to reach for that last pie, that last bag of cookies, those Pringle chips, anything you can get your hands on. So figure out the pattern. Start putting it together. Be your own detective of why you are making the choices that you are making, okay? So that is what I mean when I mean that I want you to be mindful. You also want to be mindful when you're actually eating. So mindless eating could look like sitting down with your dinner in front of the TV, and before you know it, you look down at your plate and you don't even remember eating anything. Or, like so many people, myself included, I am guilty of this, sitting down with your breakfast and you're scrolling, looking at social media from the night before, reading your text messages, looking at what you have to do for work, or maybe you're even taking a working lunch. We want to be really mindful when we eat as well. We're sitting down in a calm environment. We're without distractions when we eat. We're really enjoying the food, the aroma, the scent, what it looks like, who prepared it, having good social interaction, not talking, politics or anything that could be disruptive to our digestive system while we're eating. We're in a nice, calm, controlled environment. So that would be my third and final tip if you want to lose weight without tracking calories, is become a mindful eater, become your own body's detective, and figure out what is going on. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. Like, subscribe, all the things. I'll be forever grateful. I post lifestyle, fitness, and nutrition vlog style videos on Monday, and I post nutrition information videos every Wednesday. Thanks for following along again, and I'll see you in the next one.